Hello and welcome to this episode of Demystified as we explore home cooking in a modern world. I'm Linda and I'm here with my friend Paul. Hey Paul.
Hello Linda.
How you going?
Well, I'm okay.
Oh.
Well, no,
Are you okay?
you're on the sort of grumpy side of the week,
no,
I think.
I'm not the. No, I'm not so much grumpy, but
well,
feeling
let's be honest with people,
I'm a little overwhelmed with
Yeah.
things going on around me. But that's all right. This is fun, so this will clear my
friendly
hoodoo.
environment.
This will clear my hoodoo.
Well,
Oh no! So
well,
I don't know what today's topic is, but
yeah. So it's a little bit of I don't want to.
oh, should we be doing this off air, Paul?
No.
Okay.
I don't think I'm not going to dob anyone in or be mean to any. Wow, am I being mean to someone? No, I don't know.
I'm worried.
So here's the scenario, right? And at the time, now that I've had a bit of time to digest it, I am not as grumpy as I was, but I was really, really grumpy. So last weekend, in the morning, I'm sitting out on my deck. You know, I don't read a newspaper, so I scroll through the news on my phone. And I've got a lot of feeds for, food magazines and gourmet traveller and all sorts of food,
like we all
food
do.
stuff.
Yeah, like we all do, yeah.
Because obviously they know what content you like. Anyway, so I see this article headlined and it was titled something along the lines, and look, people can Google this if they want, but I don't know the exact title and I can't remember the author's name. And it was I'm pretty sure it was an American publication. And it was like, the easiest way to mash your potatoes, something. And I was like, man, okay, this sounds kind of interesting. Now, I am quite happily to state that I'm a stickler for technique, right?
Oh, yeah, so absolutely. I think everyone who knows you has realised that. Yeah,
like, even if I do my mashed potatoes at home, like I may well put them through a ricer, but then I generally will put them through a sieve, like a tammy, like because I want my mashed potatoes smooth. Now, if you don't want smooth mashed potatoes, you can have like chunky, crushed potatoes, right? And there's a million ways you can have potatoes. But when someone writes an article that says the easiest, mess-free, simplest way to do the smoothest mashed potatoes you'll ever have, my understanding of that is, okay, you're going to provide me with an idea here or a technique that A, is apparently going to make my life easier, B, less washing up, C, is going to give me the smoothest, creamiest, best mashed potatoes of all time. So that's the assumption that I make. So I'm reading through the article. Anyway, it gets to the stage of what is the technique. So the technique is peel your potatoes, boil them. Okay. Now, in some circumstances, absolutely, boiling potatoes. Now we're a company that revolves around steam cooking. You can do both, but it depends on the time of year. Really, it depends on the potatoes. Like really starchy potatoes are better boiled because you cook some of that starch out into the water. But that's all by the by. So anyway, this technique from memory, I can't find the article again, unfortunately, but this technique from memory was that you don't even need to peel, right?
Oh, wow.
So you just put your potatoes straight into a pot of water, bring them to the boil and cook them until they're like really fork soft. And then it goes on, and this is where
I'm interested now.
This is where I got really it mentioned you don't need a ricer, you don't need a tammy sieve, you don't need even a handheld potato masher. This is the way to do it, right?
Mm-hmm,
less mess, less cleanup, less fuss.
Yeah.
Get a cake rack, so a cooling rack, put it over a sheet pan, right? So just over a tray. I mean, Americans will know what I'm talking about when I say sheet pan. Put it over a sheet pan and just crush the potatoes through the cake rack. Now, I then was thinking about it, going, okay, well, it's got a false advertising that you're telling me it's going to be the smoothest mash, because it won't be. Because the grating on a cooling rack or a cake rack is quite, there's squares. And they're large squares, right? So the way to get a super smooth mash is to pass it or push it through something really fine. That's why rice is good, that's why a tammy sieve is good, a moolie is good, right? But anyway, so I'm reading this. Number one, it's not going to be the smoothest mash of all time. Do not, under any circumstances, tell me that it is less fuss, right, than getting a ricer out. And with a ricer, you can mash potatoes with the skin on.
Yeah, I do it all the
Yeah,
time.
right. You
Yeah.
just got to pick the skin out.
Yeah, but that's
after each
easy
time,
because it
but
just comes off with
just
the
comes
little,
out, right?
little lever that pushes them in.
And then, and clean up, right? Cleaning a ricer is
Easy
seconds,
as.
right?
Yeah.
Seconds. In this scenario, I've got to have some implement to push the potato through the cake rack. I've got the cake rack. I've also got the tray underneath it, and I'm then going to have to transport the mash from that tray into some sort of other vessel to add butter, milk, cream, whatever it was. So I was sitting there getting really quite agitated and grumpy because, and then I looked up, I clicked on who the author was. Right? Now, I can't remember the author's name, but this particular and I'm thinking, maybe this is just a food blogger or someone that's trying to come up with a new technique for some unknown reason. But this was, apparently, according to this writer's bio, was someone that had worked in Michelin star restaurants, worked in some really good restaurants in America, and I was absolutely gobsmacked.
Michelin star.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Michelin star's not everything, right? But, you know,
No, but it
you've
doesn't.
got someone...
It does kind of allude to a certain standard of food preparation.
And I'm not suggesting that everyone needs to pass their mashed potatoes through a fine chinois or a fine tammy sieve like I do. It's just because, like, that's what I do, right? And I have one, and that's how I do my mash. But to title the article, "The Easiest, Best, Smoothest Mashed Potato That You'll Ever Make with No Cleanup, No Fuss," I was really, really annoyed. Because I would imagine there's a whole lot of people, much like we do, create content that's based around food, and everyone wants their own slice of the pie, for want of a better term, and food's really trendy, and chefs are the new rock stars, and all the rest of it. But why give people, like, false information? Like, the information that I would say we give, and the vast majority of people give, for anyone, any home cook, that it wants to try a new technique or anything, is well-intentioned, right? Sometimes it may well work. It's like a recipe, right? Sometimes it may work. Sometimes you might skip a step. Sometimes, you know, anything's possible, right? But generally it's well-intentioned. I would suggest this article has been written just because this person had nothing better to write about or nothing else to write about, and there's no new trends or fads or anything like that around, and let's just make something up. So I actually tried it.
Oh.
So I did it at home.
Okay, did you take photos?
No, I didn't take photos. So I actually did it at home, and I served it with dinner to my wife, and she kind of looked at me and like, what's happened here? Expecting the mash that she would normally get.
I have had and has been silky smooth.
I said to her, I said, well, look, this is, and I showed her the article, and she's like, this is absolute rubbish. So what am I saying? I don't know what I'm saying here is, I think what I'm saying is, probably don't believe everything you read, especially, you know, everyone looks at the nice, beautiful, shiny pictures of food and goes, oh, I want to create that and all the rest of it, and that's great. But sort of maybe just always consider the technique and what you're reading, and is that actually going to work? Is it simple? Is it going to make my life better, easier? Because I just couldn't find the point of the article. Like, it wasn't poorly written, and I certainly cannot talk about writing skills or the English language because I haven't mastered it at all, but like, the point of the article was to give people, make their life easier for when they're in a, you know, when you're in a rush and you haven't got time to, you know, do all this sort of stuff to make the perfect smooth mash. It's just, I don't know. Well, I don't know. You can tell me what I'm trying to say here.
What was it like cleaning the cake? Because I would imagine, because I would imagine it's just clogged with bits of skin with potato. That's always a hard thing to clean anyway.
Made its way through.
Yes, of course it would. Because I know at home I always use a ricer, but Doug doesn't. He just says no. That's just no. So he would prefer to peel the potatoes beforehand when he does mash, and use a potato whereas masher. I'm like, oh no, I don't have time for peeling. Cut them in half, whack them or quarters, whack them in the steamer.
Job done.
Ricer.
It's relatively smooth.
It's
Happy
easy.
days.
I don't have to peel.
Yeah.
If I cut them in half and they're nice, they fit into the body of the ricer. Easy. And then I know there's no lumps. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I put in
the way we've taught me. Ricer because I told you to buy a ricer.
And I give them as presents as well because they are so useful for so many things.
Yeah, so I don't know what this topic is about, other than, I don't know, I just think sometimes there's such an inundation of like content about food and cooking and all the rest of it, and we're adding to it. Like I'm not pretending that we're not. I just kind of go, really?
But I think
really?
in sometimes your day life surrounds you with people who think they know about cooking different ways, who don't know a lot about different parts of cooking, and who are trying to maybe push a particular thing. And when you see an article in something as reputable as the Gourmet Traveller,
I don't think it was in Gourmet Traveller.
Oh, wasn't okay.
Yeah, it was.
But when you see an article, it just feels like, I can imagine, because you do have a lot of people around you coming to you, for different reasons, and this is an example of it, but I was a bit worried there that it was something I'd done wrong, and I thought, I haven't done anything lately, have I?
No.
Mate.
No, so it's
But I do think there is a lot of that. There's a lot of people, saying something, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Like my fry pan idea, I still haven't figured that out, but I do think now more carefully about why I'm putting something, how I'm going to work. And that's something that you've taught me about, the technique, really, about what am I going to do to start this piece, like the salmon, and then finish it, or
whatever it might be.
Like with making the risotto or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah, I was just kind of like there's only so many fundamental cooking methods and techniques.
That's right. Yes.
And like I'm all for change, and I'm all for embracing like new methods and techniques, but only if they make the end product better.
Yes.
I think that's got to be the criteria.
So you're asking...
If it makes the end product better, but I don't think a technique like this, I just can't understand why that would be put in print.
So what you're asking everybody is just to apply a little bit of discernment towards when they're checking a recipe or they're checking a new process.
Yeah.
Not just in cooking, but in all sorts of things.
I'm sure in accounting, Linda. I mean, you can speak to that.
Well... That's a different story, Paul.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all process driven, right?
Exactly. That's why in a lot of ways you and I are very similar in how we approach.
Well, that's a scary thought.
I know, but our therapist has said. But it is the way we both work, and you approach it with being a chef. I approach it with being an accountant, and it's nice to fall back on those comfortable tropes, which help you then deal with the unusual or the technical, the more technical. But I do think there's a lot of that around, and people are trying to fill content.
Yeah. And look, be controversial, be different, be whatever you want to be. But I still think it's the responsibility of the writer to at least like understand. I think it's like false advertising to me. That's what it's like, false advertising. It's like the smoothest, best, easiest, mess-free mash of all time, and people are going to go out there and try it. But I mean, she's not. Whoever wrote the article isn't going to, will be paid for it, and it's maybe just another article in a raft or a contract that she has to fulfill over a period of time or whatever. I don't care, but it's poor technique and method, and if everyone wants to get better at cooking, and you see inspirational stuff on, and what's inspirational and good to you might not be good to someone else, but I just think stuff like that just doesn't help. You're not helping anyone.
No.
You're just writing for the sake of writing about food because we've got to fill space, and that's I just we often worry about let's not be repetitive with our podcast, and let's not be repetitive with the recipes and all the rest of it, so we don't just fill space.
And our newsletter, we've changed the format, so it's sort of simpler and easier and less time consuming for everybody.
But anyway, I'll see if I can find the art. If I can, I may well link it to the newsletter so people can read it for themselves and have a think to see, if they think that method and technique would be as advertised, creamiest, smoothest.
I wonder if it was online, whether there were any comments or things underneath.
No, there wasn't.
Maybe they don't allow comments, but
it's quite.
Sometimes that's always a bit interesting when you hear the comments. But
I don't know. I don't know what today's topic is, but anyway, I just thought I would bring that up. And one thing I did get asked, and we don't often do this, but I was scrolling through our Instagram profile, and we have a follower who listens to the podcast, has the books, and all the rest of it.
Hello.
And actually said, I spend a lot of time commenting and sending you guys messages and stuff like that, and I never get a shout out. So to Mr. Know-It-All DC, thank you very much. We appreciate the fact that you're interested in what we're doing and talking about. There's your shout out. I didn't promise it, but you asked, so there's your shout out. So yeah, on a bit of a happier note.
I love that as a name, Mr. Know-It-All. I love it.
I bet you he doesn't put his mash through a cake rack.
Well, we'll have to maybe ask him. Maybe after he's listened to this, he can come back and say whether he tried or not, and what does he think.
Yeah. So,
but I've got a cake rack that's actually just open lines, so that'd be as useless as.
Well, even a standard cake rack is.
Yeah, our normal cake rack, but the little one that I use for some things is just a good rack. I often put meat on it if I'm roasting because it's good for getting it off.
Yeah, it's more a trivet than a rack.
It's more a trivet, yes. So that would be absolutely useless at this technique. But even the big one, I'd hate to clean it afterwards. It's a bugger to clean. Yeah. It's a real pain to clean this big, little tiny squares that jams up with food in it anyway. It's nasty to get out.
The look on your face is of annoyance.
Yeah, okay.
And
I'm just thinking about cleaning it.
Yeah, and that's just the cleaning part. So, A, you're not getting the desired end result, and B, you've got a whole heap of crap that you've got to clean up afterwards. Where's the, why have that? Because
I actually have this, to clean our cake rack when it gets mucky like that, I use a bottle cleaner brush that, sometimes you put into, wine carafes and stuff, sometimes bottles if I'm repurposing them. But I use that brush to get into the little nooks and crannies of the square corners, because that's where the food lodges, and it's nasty to get out. So the last thing I want to do is put potato peel in there. I'd never get it out.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, gross.
So
thank you for that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And phew, it wasn't something I'd done. Phew.
No, but
oh, that's good. Not this week anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like I needed to say something about it. No one has to listen to this, so I can listen to it or not.
Well, I
wanted to say something about it because I'm very much about trying to give advice to make people better at cooking. Not that I'm the best, but I experience.
No, but you've taught me some amazing technique. Yeah. And everybody who has bought our book, and people that I know who don't even have steam ovens have bought our book for some of those techniques. But what I was wondering is, in our listeners, has anybody else reach out back to us and we'll read them out? Has anybody else ever come across a technique that promised something in cooking and delivered nothing? Donuts is an Australian slang for nothing.
Yeah.
And delivered nothing, because I'm sure there are other examples.
There'd be hundreds of them.
There'd be lots of them.
It's only this caught my attention.
Well, one of the things that I thought was interesting was my nephew got a waffle maker for Christmas, and I looked at it and he was so excited, and I thought, it's a waffle, and it's a stand-up waffle maker.
Okay.
And I thought, I don't know about that. And I was very sceptical until he said, no, wait till you see this, Auntie Linda, and made amazing waffles. So I was thinking this little machine would be like, and because it was so vertical and narrow and stood up, I thought, how's that going to work? It didn't work when he tried putting in melted cheese, because that was a disaster. And I said, well, that was never going to work because it's not a batter.
Yeah.
But normal waffles he loves, and he uses this thing all the time.
Yeah.
Which I was really surprised about. So some machines can surprise you.
Oh, no doubt.
But they have to have, merit. And the cake rack
mashed
method.
Potatoes. It's not a method.
Do not try at home. Do not try this at home.
Try it and let us know.
Okay. And even better, try it, let us know, take photos and send them in.
Yeah.
So
that'll be interesting.
On that note, happy cooking, everybody.
Yeah.
Happy cooking, Paul. Please don't try that again. And until next time, take care, everybody.
Thanks, Linda.
Bye, Paul.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this podcast as we explore home cooking in a modern world. We'd love you to subscribe, and for more information, please go to our website, cookingwithsteam.com.